Hey. Well, good morning on the stream. If you're out there watching, give me a hello in the comments or in the chat there, so I know that you guys are out there watching. Just doing a sort of an ad hoc live stream this morning, sort of what I have called my Sunday or Saturday morning coffee series, where I'm relaxing to Farm 17 gameplay while I enjoy my morning cup of joe. Hello, Sly. How's it going? Thanks for stopping by. And so, yeah, it's just my my spending a little bit of time with my subscribers or anyone else who happens to kind of stumble along and stumble by. And doing just this type of work is what I typically do off camera. I had recorded an episode yesterday of Pine Cove Farm. I think it was episode number 12, I think, where I cut about a quarter of this field for chaff for the BGA, and was just going to do the rest of excuse me, was just going to do the rest of this off camera. But I decided, well, let me throw a stream up and see if anyone's out there watching and want to hang out and and talk and help pass the time. To be quite honest, I mean, if I'm going to do this stuff off camera, then I might as well live stream it, just so that if anyone's out there watching, wants to see it and wants to interact with me, then that's all good stuff. So hope everyone is having a wonderful Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, depending on where you are in the world. Of course, if you have any questions or just want to talk about something, throw it out there in the comments. One of the things I enjoy about live streaming Farm Sim especially is that it's slow enough, the pace is slow enough where I can kind of keep an eye on the comments and stuff. It's kind of hard to do that with like, for example, ATS or ETS2. It's kind of hard to watch the comment stream and drive and all that stuff because everything is moving at a little bit faster pace than normal. Troy, hey, how are you today? I'm doing fine. I'm actually doing pretty fantastic. It's Sunday morning, and I was away for a business trip portion of last week, and sort of back on Thursday night, and I'm in town for the rest of this week, and then traveling again next weekend. getting ready for a musical this week. Once Upon a Mattress. Okay, well that sounds pretty cool. That sounds pretty cool. Or parked my truck right in the middle of the way there. And we're off again. I've got Courseplay running the forage harvester, and of course I'm driving the tractor and the tipper myself. I was playing around with Courseplay yesterday, and really getting frustrated with trying to get it to set up correctly where it didn't ruin the crops. And so I finally just kind of gave up on it and said, well, I would just do it manually. And so that's what I did for that episode, which will release, I think, let's see, episode 12 will be on Tuesday. That's where I harvested the first quarter of this field, I suppose, will be that episode. And so I had about 45 minutes or so, an hour, and I thought, well, I'll throw a live stream up and see if anyone's out there that's watching. If you guys are not subscribers, I would appreciate it if you would click the subscribe button. Check out the rest of my channels. Right now I've got two active series going. I've got Pine Cove Farm, and then I've got Lawfolds. And both of these maps I'm using the Seasons mod, which is still in beta, still a work in progress, has not been released to the masses yet, but it's made a lot of good progress, and we're certainly hoping that it'll be out sooner rather than later. Well, sometimes I guess customs and border control and everything, they've got a pretty responsible job to do, and I've had things, I've ordered stuff from outside of the country before, and have had those kind of things get hung up in customs and whatnot for unusual reasons, because they can't tell the difference between that and something else. I'm a amateur radio operator, ham radio operator, and I order equipment, and for the most part I don't have problems with that. I have traveled with my radio gear from time to time, and usually I get strange looks when I go through TSA, because it'll be like a box with a bunch of switches and or maybe some cables or wires or something coming out of it, and I've had a lot of funny looks and a lot of, can you explain what this is and all that kind of stuff, and it's like, sure, it's it's this, it's that, it's whatever. $10,000 board. Well, sometimes even the more expensive stuff still confuses folks when they're looking at it, trying to determine what it is. And especially in situations like that, how much additional money they can get from it through taxes and duty fees and that kind of stuff. been kind of keeping this stuff not really packed, but kind of spread down as I'm kind of going along here. I've found that it works out much easier to do it, stay on top of it this way than to get everything piled in there and then try to go after it with either a blade or pack it down. I still don't necessarily like the way that the silage process works in Farm Sim 17. It's still quite buggy with the way that it spills through the edge of the silos and such. Come on, you can do it. Well, good morning, everyone. Just saw our watch count jumped up there, so welcome to the stream, welcome to the channel. My name is Jerry. For those of you that aren't familiar with me, Grizzly Bear Sims, if you are a subscriber, a regular subscriber, a viewer of mine, then you already know that, and welcome. Hope you're having a wonderful Sunday, and Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, regardless of where you happen to live. I hope it's a good day for you. It is for me. It's just after 9 o'clock, about 9:20 or so in the morning, and just doing a little bit of off-camera stuff. I harvested about a quarter of our cornfield that we're using for the BGA purposes. I did that during gameplay yesterday, which will actually, you guys will see that in episode number 12, I think it is, on Tuesday. And just needed to get the rest of this done so that I could stay current on the series and try not to run into that wall as I'm driving. Hello, James Feather, how are you? As I'm driving sort of sporadically down the thing there. All right, let's go get some more chaff. Where's everybody from? Where do you live? Where are you watching my channel from? I'm in Denver, Colorado, in the Mountain Time Zone in the United States. What map is this? This is Pine Cove Farm by Stevie, and this is not the this isn't the latest version. The latest version that he has created is the final version for this. This is the version just before the final version, and it was initially advertised as the final version, and so I waited. Actually, Pine Cove Farm had been out for, I don't know, maybe a month or so, and I intentionally waited until he released the final version, and he did that, and that's what this map was. So I downloaded it, installed it, got it all set up the way that I wanted to play it for the Let's Play series, and he started playing it himself and realized that there were some things missing and some things that he wanted to change about it. And so basically he went about doing that, but I was so far along already. We had pretty much got all the planting done, and of course I'm playing with the Seasons mod, which changes the default gameplay pretty considerably. I'm playing a 3 game day season, so a 12 game day year, and so the changes that he made to the map were significant enough that they were going to require a complete restart, and I just didn't want to have to do that. And so the changes that he made were not necessarily fixes. They were just some enhancements. He put some additional things in, and it was stuff that I really didn't, I wasn't really that bothered with not having that ability to that, so I did not upgrade. So, but if you are interested in this map, you can get the final version, the really final version from PCSG. You'll find a link down below to the PCSG Gaming Network. But yeah, this is another map by Stevie. Stevie does some of the best work with Farm Sim 15 and Farm Sim 17. I've played pretty much every one of his maps that he's released for Farm Sim 15. And this is the second map that I've played of his for Farm Sim 17. He did the Goldcrest Valley edit. He was one of the first ones to put a version of Goldcrest out that was slightly modified from the default Giants version. And then this map, while it's based on, I'll pull up the big map there, and you can kind of tell that it's based on Goldcrest Valley, but he's changed things up quite a bit. If you are familiar with Goldcrest Valley, you know that the main farm area is right there around where Field 8 is. He's obviously changed that, and the main farm is down on the right side of Field 2, where all the little yellow and blue dots are, where all of my equipment and everything is staged. And he's made some other changes. All the animals are centrally located to the main farm, which is a feature I like. I like having all my animals kind of in one place. Lawfolds, the maps are, or the animals are spread out a little bit, but it's not too bad. You know, the default version of Goldcrest Valley, the way that they had that set up with the dairy farm all the way down by the store, that was just kind of a pain in a way. I mean, it was doable, and we all made do with it and everything because we didn't have any other choice, but it was still just a little bit of a stretch. Morning, DC. I love the Seasons mod, James. I will kind of sum it up in a way that it's a complete game changer with regards to, especially if you play Farm Sim 17 in its vanilla state and its default state, and then you go to play Seasons mod, it really changes it. It's almost like what the soil mod did for Farm Sim 15. Now, of course, it's not quite the same, but the way that it modifies the game, the way that it essentially makes you farm just a little bit different. Obviously, there are seasons, hence the name, and only, you know, certain crops can only be planted at a certain time of the year, and we have to be careful about soil condition or soil temperature, and we can't harvest when crops are wet, and it changes animal behavior, does a whole lot of things to the base vanilla game that is actually quite cool. And I have found that I can't play, or I don't have an interest in playing maps without the Seasons mod, because you know, sort of the way that when you start up a brand new map, how you always have, you know, typically the map developer has given you X amount of fields that you own, and maybe one field's ready to harvest or two fields are ready to harvest. When you start playing with Seasons mod, obviously, because the Seasons mod starts you in the first game day of spring, basically you have nothing, you know, you have no fields that are ready to harvest, so you basically have to you know, start with what you would do in the spring, which is, you know, make sure you get things ready to start planting. And it changes it, you know, you kind of have to, like for example, this map here, by default, when you start playing this version of Stevie's Pineco Farm, you started out owning one field. Well, when you play with the Seasons mod, and I'll just show you, I'll bring up the I'll bring up the map here and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So it's actually the field that you start, that you own, is field number 5 by default. Well, if you're playing the vanilla game, starting out with just one field, if you want to play in career mode, then that's fine, because you know you can go ahead and harvest it as soon as you load the new map. You can turn right around and reseed it, and depending on how fast your plant growth is set to, within a game day or so, you can sort of rinse and repeat. Well, but seasons, you can't do that. So I mean, you're locked into an entire year, and so it's going to really change, I think, how map designers choose to set the maps up with what you're going to have, what you're going to own. Either that, or you're going to need to go in and cheat you some money in and buy up a few extra fields, because you can't just do that long, slow grind of starting out with 1 or 2 fields and try to become a multi-millionaire, because it's just going to take way too long to do that. And if you watch my especially if you watch my Lawfold series, because we're coming back into spring, so we've kind of gone through, we're like at episode 39 or something. We've gone an entire season, or an entire year, through all 4 seasons, and we've come back around. We've just got out of winter. We've come back around to, I'm a little bit too close. We've come back around to spring now, and you'll kind of get to see how things progress. And we had a good year. We sold crops, and obviously got sheep and cows going to help create more revenue coming in off the wool and the milk and things like that. But as you get exposed to it, you'll kind of see that it does change the gameplay, and it changes it for the good if that's what you're into. Good morning, Troy. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate that. And one of the things it does with the animal behavior is, as an example, your sheep will basically stop producing wool sometime in the fall, late fall time frame, and they won't produce wool again until spring. So that's something that you kind of have to plan for. And also, your cows will consume more water in the summertime than they will any other season, which is somewhat realistic, you would think. I mean, especially if it's a warm season, warm summer, warm early fall, you would expect that your livestock would obviously consume more water, so you have to be on top of that. Things like, for example, grass. You can't feed grass to your animals in the wintertime. Basically, grass will, if you've got grass bells, or if you've got grass piled someplace, it will rot, deteriorate, and basically disappear in the wintertime. And bales, if you have like hay or straw bales outside, if they get wet, they'll rot and they'll disappear. Yeah, I think, James, soil mod was something I enjoyed tremendously in Farm Sim 15, and this has definitely helped bridge the gap. I don't know if we will ever see soil mod for 17. I know that initially they were working on it, but I think that that particular modder has kind of moved over to cattle and crops. So that's obviously a good thing for cattle and crops, because hopefully cattle and crops will have something like that built in to the gameplay. But it might be bad news for Farm Sim 17 if he decides not to release it for it. And of course, I will just say that the Seasons mod is still a work in progress. It's still in beta, and it's a little bit. I don't even know if you can get it. I can't tell you how to get it. I think they changed that process some time ago, because they've been kind of wanting to restrict who has it, and but they've been actively developing it, and it has really progressed in the last several updates that we've had made available to us. There's quite a number of folks that are showcasing it on their Let's Plays, like Landy Kid and Simulate and Reefy 1952 are three that I know of that are featuring it pretty much on all their maps. I watched a video of Landy Kid's recently within the last couple of days, and I think that he's playing one map without it and playing another one or two with it. So and actually, I mean, with Soil Mod had a little bit of a, well, at least for me, because at that point in time in my life when I started playing with Soil Mod for Farm Sim 15, I was kind of busy with work, and I really didn't have a lot of time to really dedicate to it. And there was a little bit of a learning curve with that, more so than, say, Seasons Mod. But with Seasons Mod, the way that it changes the map, really your only things that you really need to be careful about is just make sure that you insert Seasons Mod at the beginning of a map save. So don't try to bring Seasons into a map that you've been playing for any length of time, because it can really mess you up. It can mess your crops and everything up with the way that it changes the growth patterns and that sort of thing. But it's not so difficult that like the Soil Mod was, where if you don't have a whole lot of time to play, it's not like you're going to kind of lose track of, okay, well, what did I do last? Did I spray in fertilizer, or was it PK, or do I just need to spray water now, or what? It's not quite that complex. You just have to be careful about your temperatures and make sure that you seed in the appropriate time. Soybeans are the one crop that's probably the most sensitive, and I did encounter a problem with the soybeans on this map, and it's a little disappointing because I'm not sure what happened. But if I look at, for example, and those of you that have been following this series, you know that field number 1 I planted in the last, I'm sorry, let's see, when did I plant that? I planted that in early summer, the first game day of summer. And you see this purple, that means it's harvested. Somehow or another, this field got harvested and I didn't do it. So the only thing that's really changed with the map is I took an update for Seasons Mod, but what I don't know is if, even though it shows that I own the field, if there's some glitch with it and the AI still have access to the field and still, does their thing. I don't know. It's kind of weird, and it's a little disappointing because that was the last field that we planted, and we did that for a reason, because of soybeans are, like I said, they're a sensitive crop, and if your soil temperatures are not right, if the outside air temperature is a bit cooler, then they basically will wither and die. And that didn't happen. It clearly says that it was harvested, but I did not harvest that field. I've not done any harvesting. This is actually the first, other than mowing grass and harvesting the grass off the field, this is the first harvest that we've done, and we're actually harvesting this corn in the last growth stage, so that it's, as far as realism is concerned, it's still a little more green than if we waited until it was technically ready for harvest. And with Farm Sim 17, it allows us to do that now. I don't think it did that in 15. Yeah, I would definitely maybe wait James on that, just because, you know, I would say they've been, I mean, they've constantly been making changes to it since I really found out about it, and I've been playing with it for a couple of months now, I suppose. But it's probably in the best shape that it's been in quite some time. And one of the things that they told us, you know, early on was that as they are developing this mod, that they are intentionally, you know, or at least they were in the beginning stages, they were intentionally trying to break it. They were, you know, trying to test it so hard that, you know, it would either break the mod or break the game, or do something, so that they could learn from that, so that they could, you know, tweak it and make sure that, you know, everything that they were doing was correct. And so they've always kept us with good working mods, mod versions. So in other words, those of us that are featuring it on our channels have not had to run the risk necessarily that it would break a map, or break the gameplay or anything. But yeah, I would say, you know, hold off on it, and I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, they just need maybe a few more weeks or maybe another month or so. They've not officially said when it would be released. It's just one of those things, kind of like cattle and crops. It'll be released when it's ready, and when they do release it, you're gonna probably know that it's gonna be really stable. It's gonna be a really good version of the mod. Well, thanks, DC. Yeah, DC says that there was a mod that we could get in Farm Sim 15 that would allow us to basically chop green corn. And so, but they put that in by default in 17, which was obviously a good thing, because again, I think from a realism perspective, that is kind of how it's done, or at least that's the videos that I've seen, like on YouTube and such, where showcasing real life farming. That's what they're doing. That's how they're doing it, just chopping it green. Those of you that are watching, are you guys early access supporters for cattle and crops? How's the traveling? Well, I'm home obviously now. I'm home this week, and then I go back to San Francisco on Sunday, next Sunday, so a week from today, for another 4 days. Yep, that's what I did, DC. I got the year season pass with CNC. I was out there this morning, well, actually last night on the Cattle and Crops forums, kind of looking to see if there's been any updated information with regards to when we might see the early access piece of it. And there's really no news. There's just a lot of complaints from other early access folks, I guess, that just are too impatient to wait for a good stable version to come out. But I would suspect that we should hear something from them, maybe just an update or something around the end of the month or the first of the month, because I think they told us that there was going to be a delay. I believe that was like in late February when they officially announced that, and they haven't really officially said anything throughout the month of March, but hoping that with the end of the month and the new month coming up, April, that they would, you know, at least give us something, give us some kind of expectation, even if it's just, you know, we continue to make progress, and we thank you for your patience and all of that kind of stuff. just to hear something from them, I think is would be a good thing. Oh, I understand, James. I remember those days as well. Yep, I 100% agree, DC. I would rather much have a good, stable early release than, you know, have it where it's just frustrating. Because I want to, you know, I want to incorporate my experiences here on my channel. I'm fully aware that there's going to be some bugs. There's going to be some. It's going to be limited in what we can do. Obviously, it's not going to be the full. It's not going to be the full-blown version of the game that we would expect to get in fall or winter of later this year. And I'm fully aware that there's going to be some problems. There'll probably be bugs that they know about when they release the early access, and then there will probably be, you know, bugs that will be obviously discovered through people like us that will be hitting it, hammering it hard and such. But, you know, I would just rather have something that is at least, you know, workable, that I can see that, okay, this is really going to be something cool, and this is really going to be something that's going to be completely different than what we've seen with Farm Sim 15 and 17. Because as far as agricultural based simulations go, my only exposure has been with Farm Sim. And I started with 15, so I did not do the Pro Pharmer game that came out last year. I didn't buy that, didn't experience it. I was going to, and I watched a few videos of folks that had it during the early access piece of it for that game, and it was so buggy and so problematic. And even still to this day, I think they've been releasing some patches and stuff over the last, you know, months and whatnot, and I'll watch a channel that'll talk about it, and they're still having problems, and they're still disappointed with how it plays. And so oh, I'm sure. I'm not even going to take you up on that bet, DC, because you absolutely are. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, these people, you know, the old saying that you complain if you're hung with a new rope. That's just what these people do. That's just how they like to, you know, live their life, so to speak, and they're never happy. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why Cattle Crops delayed things, is because they know. I mean, these guys supposedly are, you know, gamers, farm sim enthusiasts who have basically decided that, okay, well, Giants is never really going to do anything different than what they have shown that they're going to do with, you know, Farm Sim 13, Farm Sim 15, Farm Sim 17. And so we're going to, you know, we're either going to force them to do that, or we're going to start taking market share away from them. And so they've come out with this game, and some of the early content that they put out through videos and stuff was what really impressed me, obviously. And I think that maybe, you know, there was a list of bugs that they knew about that was, you know, obviously going to be encountered by every single player, and they're like, okay, well, instead of, you know, putting that out there, let's just slow things down a little bit. Let's try to address those. I think that was the right decision. It would have certainly been the decision that I would have made if I was in charge of the project. So that is so true, DC. And I work for a software company, and you know, I know that sometimes stuff gets out the door with problems, and sometimes, you know, I don't work in that. That's not what I do. I'm not a software developer, but you know, obviously I know what goes on because I pay attention to those things. But you know, sometimes people don't understand. You know, I think a lot of people, and I myself included, will say this, that I think that Giants released FarmSim 17 just a little bit too soon. I think that they were obviously trying to meet their schedule, and historically, if you look back to history, every time that they've released a version of FarmSim, going back to even as far back as FarmSim 11, they always do it in the late October timeframe. And so obviously I think this came out like on the 26th or 27th of October. But I think they probably should have kept this thing a couple of more weeks, and got everything that was sort of initially wrong with it, that they had to hurry up and push a patch out for a few days after they released it, and still it wasn't 100% right. And then they had the patch that came out 1.4.0, I think, that really messed a lot of things up, and then they obviously came out with 1.4.4 or 1.4.2, one of the two, I'm not sure. Anyway, they probably should have kept that a couple of more weeks and then released it. But that would have, you know, I mean, can you imagine, that would have just put a lot of people in panic and upset and all of that stuff. I think some people think that these things are just, you know, there's some little magical process, there's some elves in a back room or something that's creating this stuff, and all they got to do is sort of dream it up and it'll work just the way that they dream it. They don't realize that there are things that can be unknown, even from, you know, hardware compatibility perspective, that, you know, things can come about. I mean, I'm disappointed that really Giants didn't bother putting better controller support in than what they had with FarmSim 15. It is a nightmare if you use external hardware like the Logitech wheels and pedals and such. It's a nightmare to configure those, yet it's so easy to configure these in, say, Euro Truck 2 or ATS. And I think I was really expecting that for FarmSim 17, I was really expecting that the whole controller support piece of it would be completely redone from what it was in 15. And really, if you look at it, it's almost the exact thing. And especially if you have multiple controllers, like if you want to set up a, which I've done, if you want to set up a Logitech joystick in addition to the Logitech wheel and pedals, it's a challenge. It's a challenge to do that. It's not straightforward. And the other issue that really got me was I have other USB devices. I've got quite a bit of hardware for Flight Sim, and so if any of that stuff is plugged in at the time that I go into the control panel for FarmSim to do any tweaking with my devices, my wheel or my pedals or my joystick, I have to completely unplug all of that Flight Sim hardware, because it conflicts in such a way that FarmSim doesn't understand that I'm actually wanting to set up a joystick, but yet because I've got a throttle quadrant that I use for Flight Sim that I have no desire to use in FarmSim, it still thinks that the axes are things that I want to customize, and I don't, and it just makes things a nightmare. good tracked John Deere. You know, I've not seen one for 17. You talking something similar to like the default Challenger with the tracks, but in John Deere? I know I had one for 15. I don't know what it is about John Deere equipment. Half of the John Deere stuff you will find are just absolute junk, and then some of it is some of the equipment will just be absolute gems. And it's kind of like you know, I'll see something, another piece of equipment that I am interested in, download it from any of the mod sites, and it will work just fine. But it's not always the case with John Deere stuff, and I don't understand what the deal is. I know a lot of the John Deere stuff that's out there for Farm Sim 17 are just very crude and poorly converted stuff from 13 and 15, and that's probably part of the problem. But I just don't know what it is. There's something about John Deere equipment that people throw out there when, for the most part, they should just remain off the mod sites. And you will get a piece of John Deere equipment, and I don't dare bring anything new into any of my active maps that I'm actively playing. I've got a test map that I throw everything new into, and we'll test it, because I'll know usually within about the first 10-15 minutes whether it's going to survive or whether it's going to just get the delete button. And so much of the John Deere stuff that I discover ends up just getting deleted. Hey, Rubber Burner. Yeah, I know you did a video on the good, the bad, the ugly with John Deere stuff, so I know I'm preaching to the choir there. I don't understand. I mean, you know, I can go out, and if I wanted a case tractor, or if I wanted something else, I could go out and find it, and it would probably work just fine. If I go out and look for John Deere something or another, it may not. And pretty much, if you see a piece of John Deere equipment that I'm using, and I'm using quite a bit of it here on this map, then you know that it's top-notch stuff. I've put it through the ringer as far as my testing and everything is concerned before I will put it into a series. And the stuff that I've got, the seeders work really well. The few tractors that I have work really well. And that little forage harvester, that's a great one. Yeah, American Eagle modding, or American style modding, I can't remember what it's called. They've got pretty good John Deere stuff if they have it, and they don't have everything. But I think that's where I found the DB90, the row crop planters, as well as the other big seeders that I use on this map. Those are both from American style modding, or American Eagle modding. It's funny, and I know Rubber Burner may remember me saying this sometimes in some of our multiplayer trucking activities that we used to do many months ago. I used to comment on the fact how the John Deere equipment in ATS always looked better. Of course, it's called Deere John, in ATS, but it always looks so much better than it would do in FarmSim 15, especially when FarmSim 15 was the only version out for Giants. Now, of course, the little John Deere that they have on the Mod Hub, that was one of the first ones that I remember downloading, and that's a really good tractor. Yeah, and DC brings up a good point that some of the stuff that's out there is more Euro style on the John Deere stuff, which, I mean, I guess for my European maps, and I currently I'm playing Lawfolds, which is based in Scotland, so that's not a big deal, and I will probably always have, maybe one Euro style map and one American map in my Let's Plays, but I don't mind it so much there. But trying to find equipment that doesn't look too European for American style maps is a bit of a challenge, just because it's I mean, that tends to be where I think most of the modding and everything tends to originate from European folks, I guess, because of the popularity of FarmSim and the fact that it's European in and of itself. That used to bug me about some of the mods for ATS, was that a lot of the mod trailer packs and stuff that was coming out in the early days, soon after ATS came out, was all European looking stuff. And it's like, okay, we've got a game here that's called American Truck Simulator, and obviously SCS did a pretty good job of modeling the trucks and everything, but our trailers and stuff like that don't look like this. But that has since changed. I think a lot of the trailer packs and stuff that I've seen, that I have, are all pretty much resemble what we see running up and down the highway. Speaking of ATS and ETS2, I saw that the new versions are now out of beta and into prime time. Haven't really had a chance to look and see what all those changes were. I did not participate in the beta this time around. I kind of knew that I wasn't going to have a whole lot of time, and have been just trying to keep the FarmSim stuff going, and haven't had a whole lot of time to play ETS2 or ATS for that matter. What mod shows the name of the grain in the upper, I'm assuming you're talking about the upper left HUD. That is the inspector mod. There's two different ones. There's one that's called, the names of the grain in the HUD, in the lower right HUD. That is, that's game extension mod, yes. I thought you were talking about the upper left corner. That's the inspector mod. There's basically two different ones. There's inspector and there's glance, and for me, inspector came out first and I just started using it, and when glance came out, I really had no need to change, and I know that there's some differences. There's some things that people like about glance more than inspector. To me, it really doesn't matter. So, but yeah, that's the game extension mod. So for example, this is the game extension control panel. You can do different things. You can turn on Pharmer's Touch, screenshot mode, go to the second page. You can do different things here with your AI, for example. If you want to pay them a different rate for like overtime, if you want to set their shift where you can only hire hireable workers from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. you can set those here. You can turn off tabbing in the vehicles. It now has an auto save, and so so there's a lot of things. Plus, it does the information in the lower right HUD. And I'll just show you Pharmer's Touch right quick. So Pharmer's Touch, you'll see that in the lower right hand corner the HUD has changed. Since we're out of the tractor, it shows that we're in corn. It's been harvested, which is what we would expect to see since we're standing in the harvested area. And if we move over and move into the corn, we'll see that it's at 71% and it's still growing because we're obviously cutting corn in the very last stage of the growth stage, so that it's green. And so that is part of the game extension mod to show you and give you that information, which I find helpful. And I think there's also, you can control how much the player can lift, stuff like that through game extension. It really changed. It was one of the very first mods that came out after 17 was released, and of course it's had limited functionality at the very beginning, but it has really morphed into something that is, I think, probably one of the most important mods that we have for the game. Unfortunately, I heard that it's at its final stage, so the mod developer has moved on to other things, and basically I think it's kind of all that it's going to be. So hopefully that's not going to be an issue, because I would suspect that Giants is still working on some of the small little quirks and things that we still have, that we still sort of see in the game. And sometimes when Giants releases updates for the game, it can break mods, obviously, and usually if mods are still being developed, or the mod developers themselves are still somewhat paying attention to the modding scene for that particular game, then they will release updates for it. But don't know if that's going to be the case or not for game extension. All right, well, folks, we're coming up on an hour, and I've got for those of you that watch my channel and watch my videos last week, you know that I was traveling last week, and I just got home on Thursday evening from being gone since Sunday evening of the last weekend. And I'm home this week, and then I'm leaving again for San Francisco next Sunday, so a week from today. But I've got a list of honeydew things that I need to do. The weather's may turn again, get some rain, but I need to do some stuff in the yard before it starts raining, and do some other things. So I'm going to end the stream now and just say thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate it. This is kind of the stuff that I do off camera, and it's kind of boring to do it all by yourself, and so I thought, well, I'll do a live stream and have some folks to talk to, and answer some questions, may learn some things myself. And so I appreciate you all stopping by and hanging out with me, and I'm just going to go ahead and end the stream now. So thank you all for watching, and you'll see I did the first quarter of this field in episode 12, which you'll see on Tuesday, I think it is, for Pine Cove Farm, and then I'll make this episode available. Well, this won't be an episode, but I'll make this live stream available for others to watch. Probably tomorrow sometime. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching and chatting with me. I appreciate that. And I will see you all very, very soon. Once again, take care. Bye-bye.